night before his biggest breakthrough. He was crying on the floor of a bathroom in a gas station. Not a metaphor, not a dramatic exaggeration for effect. A real man on a real cold tile floor in a gas station bathroom at 2 in the morning with $17 in his bank account. A car that was about to be repossessed, and a dream that everyone in his life had told him, with genuine kindness, with genuine concern, to let go of. And if you had walked past that bathroom that night, if you had seen him through the door, you would not have seen someone on the edge of success. You would have seen someone who had lost, completely, undeniably. Someone the world had already moved on from. And then he got up, washed his face, got back in his car, and went back to work, not because he felt inspired, not because something shifted, not because luck arrived, because that is what he did every single day, regardless of how it felt, regardless of what it looked like, regardless of who was watching or not watching. He went back to work. And 6 months later, the world called it an overnight success. They always do. That word, luck, we need to talk about that word seriously, because it is one of the most destructive lies that our culture tells and retells and celebrates without question. We look at someone who has built something extraordinary, a business, a body, a skill, a life, and our first instinct is to find the explanation that requires the least from us, and luck is the perfect explanation. Luck means it was random. Luck means it could have been anyone. Luck means there was nothing they did that you could not have done, nothing they sacrificed that you were unwilling to sacrifice, nothing they built that required more from them than you are currently giving. Luck is comfortable. Luck is clean. Luck lets you keep your excuses and your comfort and your average effort and your reasonable ambitions without ever having to look yourself in the eye and ask the question that changes everything. The question is, what am I actually willing to do? Because success knows the answer to that question, and it is not interested in your intentions. It is not moved by your potential. It does not care how talented you are, how smart you are, how many people believe in you, how good your ideas are. Success has exactly one language, and that language is not brilliance. It is not luck. It is not timing. It is not connection. It is effort, consistent, unglamorous, repetitive, daily, sometimes joyless, often thankless, always necessary effort. The kind that happens when nobody is watching, the kind that happens when you do not feel like it, the kind that happens on the days when everything in you is saying stop, rest, tomorrow, later, enough. The kind that happens anyway. Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel lying on his back on a scaffold for 4 years. 4 years of paint dripping in his eyes, of neck pain so severe he could barely turn his head, of cold mornings and sore hands, and an ungrateful patron demanding faster progress. When it was finished, and people stood beneath it and gasped and called it divine and miraculous and touched by God, nobody talked about the 4 years on the scaffold. Nobody talked about the days he wanted to quit. Nobody saw the effort. They only saw the ceiling. They called it genius, but Michelangelo himself said something that most people have never heard. He said, "If people knew how hard I worked to get my mastery, it would not seem so wonderful at all." He did not say that modestly. He said it as a fact. The wonder was built by the work. The magic was made by the mundane. The miracle was constructed, one difficult, painful, ordinary day at a time. And I need you to understand something about the nature of daily effort that most motivational content gets completely wrong. It is not always exciting. It is not always meaningful in the moment. It does not always feel like progress. There will be days, many days, more days than you are prepared for, when you do the work and nothing happens, when you show up and the needle does not move, when you put in the hours and the result refuses to arrive, when you do everything right and the outcome is still wrong. And on those days, your mind will generate every reasonable, logical, emotionally convincing argument for stopping. It will tell you that you have tried long enough, that if it was going to work, it would have worked by now, that the people who told you to be realistic were right all along. And on those days, specifically those days, the difference between the people who make it and the people who do not is not talent. It is not luck. It is the decision to show up anyway, not inspired, not confident, not certain, just present, just working, just refusing to stop. There is a farmer who plants seeds in spring. He does not stand over the ground the next morning, demanding to see results. He does not dig up the seeds after a week to check if they are growing. He does not quit in summer because the harvest has not arrived yet. He waters, he tends, he waits, he works. Day after day, in the ordinary, unglamorous rhythm of consistent effort, he works. And then the harvest comes, not because he got lucky, because he understood something fundamental about how growth actually works. It is invisible before it is visible. It is happening underground before it breaks the surface. And the people who quit, the people who walk away from the field in June and say nothing is growing and this is not working, they quit right before the breakthrough they spent months earning. You have quit before. I know, because everyone has. You have stopped at the edge of something that was about to change. You have put down the work 3 weeks before the compound interest of consistent effort would have paid out. You have walked away from the field in June, and I am not saying that to shame you. I am saying it because understanding that pattern is the only way to break it. The most dangerous moment in any pursuit is not the beginning when you are full of energy, and the most dangerous moment is not even the middle when you are tired. The most dangerous moment is just before the breakthrough, when everything looks the same as it did yesterday and last week and last month, when the rational case for stopping is at its most convincing, when quitting looks the most like wisdom. That is the moment. That is where success is actually decided, not in the highlight reel, in that quiet, unremarkable, invisible moment when you decide to continue. Nobody accidentally builds a great body. Nobody stumbles into fluency in a language. Nobody falls into expertise. Nobody gets lucky into a skill that took 10,000 hours to develop. The surgeon whose hands you trust with your life did not wake up one morning with steady hands and precise knowledge. They practiced, they failed. They studied on nights when they were exhausted. They showed up to procedures that frightened them. They built the competence that looks like talent through years of effort that nobody applauded, and nobody filmed, and nobody called inspiring. What you see as effortless mastery is the end product of an enormous invisible mountain of daily effort that happened long before you were watching. So here is what I need you to hear, not as motivation that fades by tomorrow, but as a reorientation of how you understand your own life. The results you have right now are an accurate reflection of the effort you have consistently applied, not your potential, your consistent effort. And if there is a gap between where you are and where you want to be, That gap is not bad luck. That gap is information. It is telling you exactly what needs to change. Not your circumstances, not your connections, not the economy or the timing or the industry, the daily effort, the consistency, the showing up when it would be easier not to, the working when nobody is watching and nothing is rewarding you, and the results are not yet visible. Success does not arrive. It accumulates quietly, invisibly, one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, one decision at a time, in the early mornings, before anyone else is awake, in the late nights, after everyone else has stopped, in the small choices that nobody sees and nobody celebrates, but that compound over months and years into something that the world will eventually look at and call lucky. Let them call it luck. You will know what it actually was. It was Tuesday morning when you did not feel like it. It was the repetition that bored you. It was the failure you learned from instead of surrendering to. It was the decision, made quietly, privately, without applause, to continue. That is success. It was never luck. It was effort. Every single day.